The setup of your bass drum pedal can have a huge influence on your overall playing feel. Here is all you need to know about this topic. First of all, every player is different. Just as every drummer chooses his or her go-to stick model, every drummer loves different settings regarding the bass drum pedal. So it's all about trying different options and finding your personal favorite. Let's talk about the adjustment possibilities you have with most pedals. The first and most obvious one is the height of the beater. When installing the beater, make sure it hits the drum in the spot you want it to. Usually, the middle of the drum head is a great way to go. This parameter changes a lot of the sound's properties. You can compare it to a snare that sounds completely different when you hit it in the center versus right next to the rim. Of course, changing the height of the beater also changes the playing feel due to the weight shift, but this can be adjusted by using weights. For this setting option, the decisive factor is sound. The second adjustment you can work on is the tension of the spring. Here are two equal pedals, one with very tight and one with very loose spring tension. Check out how big the difference is. You can imagine that those two pedals also feel totally different. It's all about your personal preference. Both pedal settings are pretty normal and can be very useful for various playing techniques. A tight spring makes the beater come back faster by increasing the resistance against your foot, whereas you'll have to make use of the beater's rebound a lot more with a loose spring. As an example, for lighter playing it can be helpful to loosen the spring tension and rely more on the natural rebound of the beater. The next two parameters are the angle of the beater and the height of the footboard. With many models, there is no option to configure those two independently. The crucial factor when it comes to setting up the beater angle is the distance from the batter head of the bass drum when your foot is not on the pedal. Placing the beater farther away from the drum head will give the beater more distance to accelerate and give you the chance to play louder. When placing the beater closer to the drum head, the short distance will limit your maximal volume. So if you want to go for speed only and use a trigger, for example, the short distance low volume will work great, but if you're looking for a punchy loud rock bass drum sound, you'll have to place the beater farther away from the drum head. If your pedal doesn't have the option to set up the footboard height independently, this parameter is predetermined when setting the beater angle. If you have a pedal like this one, where you can change the board height independently, you can now decide how steep you want the board to be. But keep in mind to leave enough room underneath so that the footboard doesn't hit the bottom plate when hitting the bass drum. Now let's take a look at three different settings, ranging from a loose spring to a quite hard one, and where we consider them to work best. The first setting features a very loose spring. This goes perfectly with playing out of the bass drum instead of burying the beater in the batter head. The loose spring forces you to use the rebound of the drum to bring the beater back. This spring setting works great no matter if you play heel up or heel down. A lower tension gives you the most options in dynamics. The second setting might be the standard setting for most drummers and also the default setting with most pedals. The spring tension, the beater angle, and the footboard are all set to a medium setting. We consider this to work best when you play into the bass drum and at a medium volume. So for most pop rock contexts, this setting is just fine. Once again, this might be a good starting point for you to experiment with the individual factors and get a feeling for what each of them does while keeping the other settings the same. The third setting has a very high spring tension. This way, the beater will come back quickly, giving you the chance to play very fast. But the faster you go, the less distance the beater will be able to cover. That's why we placed the beater closer to the drum head. The volume you get will be lower, but for high-speed drumming you have to find a compromise between volume and speed at some point. Once again, these are just recommendations based on our personal experience. Start experimenting with your own pedal settings and keep in mind that it could be useful to change those settings from time to time, depending on the music you play. What are your go-to settings on the bass drum pedal and what is your experience? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more.